permaculture, you let termites remain. Can you please explain this?
Yes, we let termites remain because they are also living beings and they have their right to stay here, or because that is their land, that is where they survive, that is where the termites live. So the termites, when people look at termites, they always think of them as destructive, but you don't look at that. Again, the first principle of permaculture, you don't observe what's happening, you don't interact, there is nothing, you just think because you heard somewhere that termites are destructive, you think that they are destructive. Yes, termite does attack wood which is moist and which is about to die. So when you always look at termites, termites are the ones which are eating the dead wood or the wood that is about to die, almost about to die, but never a fresh one. So there is no point in us spraying something or killing the termites, because they are doing their role. They are wonderful decomposers. If you look at the what termites do, especially in laterite soils and red soils, they break down all the leaf and litter, all the organic content, and break down into very fine particles which the soil needs. Soil nutrients, where the soil is getting for nutrients is from the leaf and all the litter that's falling from the trees. The termites and the microorganisms are breaking down, and those nutrients are being fed to the soil. So termites do good thing. They are wonderful decomposers. They're wonderful organisms which break down organic matter. So termites attack something, or termites eat on the wood only when the wood is dead and the wood has a lot of moisture, and if the plant is about to die. Only if there are these three conditions, that is when the termites attack something, eat something, not on a living thing, not on a living tree. Even if you see sometimes some of the barks of the trees, the termites just make homes like this and then they go up. So even in that case, the termites are not killing the tree, the termites are eating the dead bark that is on top of the tree. They go however taller the dead bark is, they eat till there and then they just come down. So you need to observe all these. It's not just like you hear people saying termites are bad and then you start killing them. Termites do a wonderful job. If there are no termites, there's no breakdown of leaf and litter in the laterite soils, especially.
Got it. So I think while you were explaining how in a certain land we should we should plant trees who gives fruits for different seasons. So I think Ms. Sneha, she's asking, every plant is different, needs different quality of water, quantity of water. So having different types on same land, isn't it having trouble for the farmer to balance the water and soil? Isn't that a challenge for him?
Having different types of plants.
Plants that requires different quantity of water, would that be a challenge for the farmer to balance it?
Okay, so it depends on what kind of plantation the farmer is doing. If he is going for a local, so if I'm talking about a rain-fed region, the farmer is not giving water. Not every place the farmer gives water to the plants. Only in the initial first 2 years, irrespective of what plant it is, they give water. But as they keep growing, if they are local, again talking about local is very important. If I'm planting a local tree which is local to that region, it is acclimatized to that climate. It grows in various conditions. It takes water in different seasons. If you're growing something exotic which is not from here, or you've got it from somewhere else, so the plants like those have different kinds of requirements, different kinds of needs. If you're going for local varieties, local species, they acclimatize to the local requirements, and they have their own, the resiliency is more than compared to the other species of plants.
Got it. So I have one question.
Yes.
Uh, I was very inquisitive about when I got to know about permaculture, and I wanted to understand, like, so Indian history, Indian culture in general everything has a scientific impact. Everything has a scientific meaning. Whatever has been listed in our grunts, in our Vedas. Does
Mhm.
permaculture also has a reference from the ancient history, or is it something that has been developed over the time to kind of
I
include?
I think permaculture is just a term. It's just a
Okay.
tag. But if you see what's in it, it is something that the Indians have been doing it for so long. It is not a
Yes.
rocket science. It is not something that we have just borrowed it from a Western ideology. It is something that India had in its roots. Everything that you read in permaculture is something that is existing or has existed in the Indian system, but at some point it's all gone. We are just trying to revive them back. It just has a tag of permaculture or name of permaculture, but whatever we talk about is something that's existing. Even when we talk about kitchen gardens or anything, if we talk about gray water systems where we talk about using the used water reuse again, but if you go to any rural setting, all the kitchen water, whatever they wash the vessels with, all the kitchen water is being redirected into their backyards where they're growing the tomatoes, where they're growing brinjals. So gray water system is just a term in permaculture, but that has been followed in our traditional systems and so long. Even now rural villages, if you go, that is what they've been practicing. It's just that a sect of people have forgotten that there are some things like that exist, and nowadays there is no people don't go to villages, people don't know how a village is, how a rural rural life is. So for people like those, these might sound something new, so which is something they are very surprised about, but these are all many things that are already exist.
Yeah, and the West is also following it. They are, I think, more than the awareness that we have or we have forgotten our roots. Like West is adapting it. West is following these kind of agricultural practices, learning from India, learning from. I'm sure there. I have heard there are so many organizations that come and learn from Aranya, and they're taking back these principles and they're following this in their own agricultural settings. One more thing, that when I was going through when I was doing my research, uh, I heard sir saying that be it a bedrock, be it a rocky land, anything, might not be suitable for growing something, but still through permaculture, you can create that into a lush garden or or in fact even a small forest.
Mhm.
How is that possible? How through permaculture we do that? And also, just to add on to that, uh, us living in an urban setting, if we have a piece of land or if we have it in our own home, moving towards organic farming, growing their own food, how in and the land is not always suitable for growing something. They're doing it in the pot. How we should utilize through permaculture in our daily lives in a common homely setting, and make sure that we are growing our own food.
In an urban setting, you mean in an urban backyard or front yard, or how, in a
Yes,
small piece of
yes,
land, or
yes. And a front yard and a backyard, basically.
okay. So what you can just start off with very small things, be it vegetables or anything, that even the tomato that you're eating today, you can just remove the seeds and add it and see which one's coming up well. Sometimes it's also trial and error. It's not like everything you sow has to come back. Is there a rule that where you think that I'm sowing this here and it has to come back? So even like I said, observing and interacting is very important. When you sow something, if something is growing well, you can go ahead and plant for that. Like, and also when you mentioned about the bedrock and the soil, how it can be done, uh, even here patience is something that is very important. Everything doesn't just happen like this. It needs years of perseverance, years of efforts that goes into it when you're converting that kind of thing. But also when we talk about small scale farmers, small land holding farmers, again, local species, planting local species which doesn't need a lot of water, doesn't need a lot of inputs from your end. And like I said, rainwater harvesting in their farmlands where moisture can be held for longer, and only planting species which depend on rains rather than excess water, where there is no flood irrigation. If we talk about flood irrigation, this area doesn't have flood irrigation, there is no as much water. So based on the land, based on the type of land, based on the local agroclimatical conditions, based on the local species of plants, one can design or one can go for it, rather than just going for something that. So we have to respect land, we have to respect soil. The basic thing that we don't do is we don't respect of them. We always you have to eat what your land gives. That's the first rule that everybody has to understand. Eat what your land gives. Don't enforce your thoughts into your soil and ask your soil to give back. you want broccoli. If your broccoli is not growing in your soil, that means the land doesn't want to give you broccoli, because that's the land cannot give you broccoli. It's you who wants broccoli, and you're forcing the soil to give broccoli, and you start pumping whatever nutrients it wants into your land. So you have to eat what is the land giving you, what's the local greens that it's giving you, what's the climatic condition is giving you, rather than you forcing the land to give you something for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mr. Prashad is asking, can you tell us briefly about zero budget farming?
I I hear a lot of zero budget natural farming happening in the Andhra, and that's also another school of thought, which is a good thing. So any school of thought, just not permaculture, be it biodynamic farming, um, or Subhash Palekar method, or zero budget natural farming, they all are different school of thoughts and having different names, where the principles, whatever we spoke about, is the same. That is a good thing. ZBNF is a good farming technique or a farming method, whatever you call it. So everything, so wherever you're following those, there are some things in common in all of these school of thoughts, where they talk about diversity, they talk about less inputs, where we talk this less inputs and more diversity, and involving livestock, cattle. These are all something which are common in all school of thoughts, but the just the name is different, and some other principles are different, but it has its own importance when it comes to farming as a practice.
Got it. There's a lot of appreciation in the chat box. I'm trying to also take the questions out of amongst all appreciations. Mr. Arka was asking, do we need to do soil testing?
Soil testing, yes, if you want to do a soil testing, you can get a soil test done, but before you also get your soil sample and send it out to a soil testing lab. It is not always about soil testing. You can first, touching the soil is important, seeing the soil is important, feeling the soil is important. And what soil should always be a living, one should consider soil as a living entity, because that is where you're getting all your food from, that is where we are living on, that is where what we eat is coming from. So soil, one has to consider soil as a living entity. And then we need to talk about what food does the soil need. What food does the soil need? It needs more organic matter. More organic matter needs to be added to the soils now. So once we keep our soils rich by adding whatever the food that the soil needs. Sometimes you don't always need to go for a soil testing, but first, visually seeing the soil, touching the soil, smelling the soil, digging the soil a little deep, and you can see different kinds of soil. That is when, after you do those basic things, then you can always send it out to a soil testing report to see how your soil is, and what are the things that the soil contains, rather than what are the things that the soil is lacking. Because it's when you go to a hospital, what happens when you go to a hospital, you get all your tests done, right? There is no human being, when you go to a hospital, all your reports are extremely perfect. All of us are lacking calcium, for example. Vitamin D is something that we are all short of. So there is nothing which shows perfect. Even the same in the soil report, not all soils are rich in everything, but the moment you get your soil report and you see something is lacking in it, all your energies are gone. So I'm just comparing it, because once you get your soil test and you see what your soil is lacking, sometimes it also feels that you see that the nitrogen is less. So you have, what the moment you see that you have less vitamin D, what do? Instead of going out, standing in the sun and getting the sun rays, you take a vitamin D3 capsule. You're going to do the same with your soil. You'll start injecting your NPK, you'll start injecting all sorts of things in your soil.